Hello and welcome back to the Digital Health and Wearables series. Today I have another magnificent guest and leader for you on this episode. But if you have not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and share all this magnificent content with your communities in healthcare. Lots of different episodes before. But before I go ahead and introduce today's leader, I'd like to acknowledge our global partners, the content partner Fujifilm Healthcare, and also the global partner Spirit Digital. But without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to John Sharp. He's an adjunct faculty of health informatics at Kent State University, also a former director for thought advisory for HIMSS, and he worked for Cleveland Clinic for many, many years. John, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
Nice to meet you. Finally, I follow your work. Before the recording, we're talking about that. It feels like I know you for a long time, but this is the first time that we meet each other. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
Thanks for
glad to
being in
join
here.
on. Yeah, glad to be here.
Fantastic. I'm gonna go ahead to the questions. Is that okay for you?
Yes.
Brilliant. So the first question that I have for you is the Digital Medicine Society has crowdsourced a list of over 200 digital endpoints, which some might refer to digital biomarkers. And how this data from wearables revolutionize research and clinical practice in the future? And what will be the tipping point?
Yeah, I think for one thing, it indicates the growth of the industry that we have these many digital biomarkers or endpoints that can be measured, and many from wearables, as well as other devices like wireless scales and so on. So first of all, it's a real accomplishment to get to this point in the industry and to have that much reliable data. Um, I think it's beginning to be accepted in a lot of clinical research, first of all. And there's a movement, particularly in digital therapeutics, which is uh, another association related to the Digital Medicine Society, that is using them, the devices, not only in research but also in treatment. I think because we're at this point, and as more, we really got to this point and to the point of wearables being so useful, is from miniaturization of sensors and more sensors coming on the market, and even many now with FDA approval. So that's the key point where the acceptance for the industry and for clinicians, I think, hits a tipping point where um, we have reliable data, continuous data to monitor chronic disease or even detect disease, as in the Apple Watch and others, looking at atrial fibrillation, for example. So I think what the future holds is a combination of, or a real opportunity to do what we call remote monitoring, which will be more and more just wearable monitoring, continuous monitoring of disease, that where we can particularly detect deterioration of patients, and using AI and predictive analytics, be able to treat them proactively. I always complain that for so many years, the best practice for managing chronic illness was, uh, for instance, the doctor says you have diabetes, here's a prescription, good luck, I'll see you in 3 months, with no monitoring in between. And now we have an opportunity to do continuous daily monitoring. The final step, I think, for the tipping point is good integration with electronic medical records, so clinicians can have that data in a readable format, not 20 blood glucose readings per day and then see the patient once a month and try to interpret that many readings, but some kind of visualization that allows them to see when they were out of range, when they were in range, the percentage, and so on. So I think it's this combination of better sensors, validated sensors, adoption in chronic disease monitoring, and data visualization within the EMR that will make adoption really grow.
Oh, brilliant. John, thank you so much for these important points. What I heard from you was that the reliability is increasing. Also, we have some kind of benchmark in the industry now because it's a new industry. So these points are extremely important. Of course, the reliability of the data, the integration, and more devices becoming FDA approved. So good news for us going forward. But leading to the second question, which ties in really well with the diabetes actually, is digital diabetes prevention programs have been seen and have considerable success in preventing and treating chronic conditions. What digital devices can support this treatment model to a standard of care in chronic disease?
Well, I think um, the most important element of these prevention programs is actually the virtual coach, which is not a device, but an actual person, although companies are experimenting with AI bots to be able to respond as virtual coaches. But in addition to that, I think there are some companies that even for pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes are using glucose monitors, and particularly the one from Abbott that's advertised a lot here in the US is shows how easy it is to do continuous monitoring. So I think that's one that's already being widely adopted. I think some companies, either in the weight loss space or in diabetes prevention, are using wireless scales to be able to instantly record the data, put it in an app both for the patient and for the virtual coach. And obviously, having a Fitbit or Apple Watch or other or Withings now as a wearable, it really provides immediate feedback for the person with diabetes and can also feed that data then to the virtual coach. So I think there are a lot of, there'll be many more in the future. The other one that I'm really excited about and that I hope will continue to grow is digital inhalers, particularly for people with asthma and COPD, where again, you get immediate feedback on how many doses you're using, how frequently, even geolocation, where you are. So you have a lot more data about how diseases like asthma are being managed on a continuous basis throughout the day.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much, John. And when you mentioned at the beginning the coaching, I was thinking actually about, well, let's mention Fitbit actually bought a coaching company very recently, probably over a year ago, because it's a big gap, as you know, John. It's a big gap in education. It's a big gap about monitoring. It's a big gap about supporting people with wearables. It's not just getting a wearable and then that's it, because the wearables on its own, they're not the miracle. They need the behavioral
Right.
change piece, and as you know, anyway. So very up
Yeah.
point there. The third and last question that I have for you is uh, Dr. John Turose, from the director of digital psychiatry at Beth Israel Medical Center in Boston, has proposed using wearables to monitor symptoms in several mental illnesses. What do you think can be other applications of using wearables in mental health?
Yeah, I think, by the way, John is a friend and a very someone everyone should follow who's interested in digital mental health, because he really is a leader on the field, besides publishing almost weekly on the topic. But I think using the example for starters in severe mental illness like schizophrenia and even bipolar disorder, being able to detect mood swings through wearables is an interesting concept. It's not really proven by the research yet, but it's the potential is there, I think, and it should be further researched and further utilized. It's again similar to the lack of diabetes monitoring in the past in severe mental illness and even milder mental illness, whether it's depression or anxiety. The psychiatrist or even the counselor who may see the patient on a weekly basis has no idea. It depends completely on the patient report at that weekly meeting, or in the case of a psychiatrist, it may be 6 weeks or 3 months. And again, recalling that information is unreliable. If you can take a wearable, even an activity monitor, to see kinds of activities like even heart rate or motion moving around, you can get a sense of somewhat a sense of anxiety, and maybe depression, anxiety because of more movement, and depression because of a lack of movement, perhaps, even on a broad sense. But I think we'll be able to become much more sophisticated in using all the tools that are in wearables to do a lot more detection. And then again, this, as with diabetes and other chronic conditions, do proactive treatment using that monitoring, and perhaps combining it with coaching, or even AI bot type coaching that would help the patient in a time to prevent crises. And we all know that mental health crises are particularly painful. And I think most patients who are in treatment are motivated by it to go into treatment because they fear those kinds of crises that they've experienced in the past. So I think there's potential. It's very early, but I think we need a lot of creative minds working on this problem.
Oh, brilliant, John. I know that you've been working for such a long time. Let me congratulate you on your work on personal connected health. You know, I'm also a big advocate for wearables, and the potential is enormous, as you just described, for several conditions. My vision is that the wearables can change the world, from mental health to diabetes to COPD. I mean, they have so many applications. Thank you so much for that. John, we came to the end of the questions. I don't have any more questions for you. I appreciate your time, your expertise, and your commitment to the industry as a whole. But I finalize all my episodes with a, it's not really a question, it's called 1 minute of fame. Yeah, you can mention anything: your work, family life, friends, any projects, a brand. You can you can give a shout out to anything, what any wearable brand, anything
Uh,
whatsoever, you know. So over to you to round up. 1 minute of fame.
all right. Well, I'll actually use the 1 minute to make an endorsement, because I'm on board now of a nonprofit who just yesterday launched a new product called Happy Mama, and you can look that up. It's a comprehensive app to support women in pregnancy and postpartum, and it's really a global tool, not just limited to the United States. So I think there's real potential in um, trying to solve some of the problems of difficult pregnancies, postpartum depression, other medical problems after birth, that um, a tool like this can really make a difference.
Oh, fantastic. Brilliant. And it's a very niche area. It's a really nice, they're very unexploited segments, aren't they, John?
Right.
Yeah. John, thank you so much. What can I say? Let me thank you all over again. Thank you so much for your time and for the brilliant content and your input.
Thank you.
I'm going to round up. Thank you to our viewers and listeners. Make sure you subscribe. Also, I'm going to post John's LinkedIn and Twitter here. Make sure you follow his work. Some amazing work over the years. And let me finally acknowledge our partners, Fujifilm Healthcare, our content partner, and our global partner, Spirit Digital. And I'll see you all next week.